Hello, Santa Monica. My name is Sergeant Rick Verbeck with the Santa Monica Police Department, and I'm here today to guide you through this week's Blue Notebook Review. We'll be covering the week of August 10th to August 16th. And since we're constantly trying to improve, we did add a couple more data points that we thought you'd find interesting. I'm sure the kids aren't too happy, but I know the parents are. This week, we went out and welcomed all the kids back to school. Now, let's get into what else we did. This week, we responded to 2,431 calls for service, bringing our year-to-date at 75,887. And this actually brings us to our highest total of arrests in a single week period of 82 arrests. 66 were from our unhoused population, while 16 were housed. And looks like we're about 2,000 arrests year-to-date. If you've been driving around our city, I'm sure you've noticed an uptick on traffic enforcement. Our motor officers conducted 93 traffic stops and issued 87 citations, while our patrol officers conducted 164 traffic stops, issued 72 citations, and made 5 arrests. Unfortunately, there was also a fatal traffic collision at the intersection of 4th Street and Colorado Avenue, involving a vehicle and a pedestrian. And let's get the camera on me. I never realized there was the amount of traffic collisions that we get until I became a police officer. And if I looked at all the data, and I did the homework for you, it looks like the majority, it's called a primary collision factor. So the PCF is speeding and inattention for normal traffic collisions. Those involving driving under the influence, like that's a separate category, but I'm just talking your day-to-day traffic collision, speeding and inattention. So, a little reminder that sometimes we all need. Leave a little earlier. If you have a meeting at 2 and it takes you 30 minutes to get there, leave earlier. Not only is that going to save you from your road rage, but that's also going to alleviate a lot of your stress. You're not going to have to speed to make up the time difference. It is a big improvement in your day-to-day quality of life to just leave earlier. And pay attention. And I mean this across the board. Whether you're in a car, a bike, or on foot, just pay attention. Remember, plan ahead. Don't speed ahead. We'll make that into a bumper sticker. That's hot off the press. And I couldn't have asked for a better bridge, because here we have a road rage incident that led to a stabbing and a 24 in the block of Pico. This was between a person riding an e-scooter and a person in a wheelchair. The person on the e-scooter claimed the person in the wheelchair lunged at her. She then chased him down and stabbed him once in the back. She was arrested, and the victim was treated for a minor, non-life-threatening stab wound. And it looks like we have a fraud alert where the suspect gained the victim's trust, went back to the victim's residence, and received a large amount of cash, approximately $50,000. That investigation is still ongoing. And here we have a new section added to the Blue Notebook. We want to make sure the men and women that work in our downtown services unit got the credit they deserve for the work that they do. Here it looks like we had a couple shoplifters taken into custody, one being an adult at TJ Maxx and one being a juvenile reported missing from a foster home. They also responded to a call of a downed subject impeding a sidewalk at 6th and Wilshire. He became aggressive and refused to comply with commands. He was arrested and found to have a no-bail warrant for a parole violation. The proactive work by DART led to some good arrests. They stopped a person for smoking on the beach, arrested for a no-bail warrant. For operating a chop shop, they stopped an individual for a Muni Code violation, again, arrested for a no-bail warrant, at a Santa Clara for a probation violation. They stopped 2 other individuals for smoking on the beach, both, you guessed it, no-bail warrants. They stopped an individual for loitering under the pier. He was found to be on PRCS for domestic violence and was an out-of-compliance sex offender, also arrested. All this is great to see that the proactive enforcement of something small leads to something a lot bigger. In total for this week, DART made 10 arrests. And much like DART, CIT's directed proactive police work led to numerous stops and arrests. A crime suppression detail in the downtown area led to a felony arrest and a misdemeanor arrest and a citation. They also stopped a person on Ocean Avenue for a Muni Code violation, which led You guessed it, no bail arrest. They conducted an operation on Colorado Avenue, which led to 3 felony arrests. They even stopped a guy on Lincoln Boulevard that was in possession of ninja stars. You don't see that very often. Your community engagement team attended the annual PAL Back to School event, providing children with essential school supplies and haircuts. We also conducted a workplace violence training for city employees who work with youth programs. Another good collaboration that we don't talk much about, but your community engagement team paired up with our Department of Mental Health and responded to a couple individuals experiencing a mental health crisis. One was admitted to a hospital for treatment, while the other, not meeting the requirements of 5150, was arrested. Our help team, along with CIT, conducted a joint operation along the promenade and train platforms. That led to 6 misdemeanor arrests for narcotics and Muni Code violations. They also collaborated with the Salvation Army for an outreach operation along Palisades Park. And it looks like they arrested a few more for outstanding Santa Monica warrants. In total for this week, they made 131 proactive stops and responded to 37 radio calls, leading to 6 arrests, 16 citations, and 6 Samuel Bridge referrals. Our animal services now have 57 felines and 25 canines ready for adoption. Unfortunately, our adoption numbers went down from last week's review. This week, you were able to adopt and rescue 7 cats and 2 dogs. So, if you're looking for unconditional love and are able to give a cat and or dog a home, please stop by our animal shelter at 1649th Street. Just stop by, talk to our staff, learn about the personalities of our dogs and cats, and you never know. One might just touch your heart. And last but not least, our Harbor Services unit had a busy week. They responded to 7 medical calls, 12 calls for service, and effected 4 rescues. And that, my friends, concludes the review of the Blue Notebook. But like we like to do at the end of every segment, let's get to your comments and questions. This one's from Tipsy Board. I truly appreciate the way Santa Monica is engaging with the community, especially their efforts to build trust with children and help them feel safe and supported around law enforcement. And looks like Hododo responded that she agrees. Well, I too agree, and thank you. We truly do believe in our youth, and we try through our PAL program, through contacts out in the field, to constantly engage with our youth. This is from D-Ray. These visual and audio updates are awesome. Thank you. You're very welcome. I'm glad you like it, D-Ray. And thanks for staying consistent with your comments. From Hododo. Love your police uniform. Just kidding. You always do a good job. I enjoy your updates. If you remember that she's referencing last week when I had our police jersey on for National Night Out. Here's a little fun fact for you. Do you know that the average police officer, with all the gear that we have to carry out in the field, weighs about 40 pounds? So we're carrying an extra 40 pounds with us as we chase down the bad guys. From Ask the Stash. Thank you, sir. You're welcome, Stash. Appreciate you. From R. Vartan 2. Did that say 70% of all calls are homeless related year to date? No. What I think you're referencing is the arrests. So the arrests, yes, 70% of our arrests are homeless related year to date. For calls for service, the relation is 26% for radio calls pertaining to homelessness versus those who are housed. So, no, but close. From Santa, there have been there have been times when I've called non-emergency for things I've seen on my street, but don't seem to be taken seriously. I live on a busy street, so it'd be nice if we can get a quicker response, and while I know they are not emergencies, they could lead to one. IJS. I'm just saying, I haven't heard that one before. In any case, thank you, SMPD, for the hard work. Well, thank you. We do welcome any type of comments, criticism, anything that we can use to make ourselves better. So, think of, and I don't know, you didn't state what kind of calls you're talking about, but think of calls coming in like a triage in a hospital. We have to triage the calls based on the emergency. So if you're calling for something that's not emergency yet, but someone else has called about, let's just say, 2 subjects fighting, then we need to go to that call first before we can get to yours. But there have been times where our officers are out on patrol and we get a call and it's a low-level call. But since we're in the neighborhood, we immediately respond because we're right there. So don't be discouraged. We do respond. We do respond to every call. And I'm sorry that it had made you feel that you weren't being taken seriously. The men and women out there do take it seriously. I've even chased a squirrel out of someone's home before. So we do respond. I couldn't do that again if I tried. From San Monica Community, can I share? Can I share it? If yes. Yeah, of course. Share it all. We want people to engage. So please, share all our posts. From Kathleen. Yep, not going to try that last name. From Kathleen. Thank you for the video and for your information. Much appreciated. You're welcome, Kathleen. From Kaveh Ramanian. Hopefully I got that right. Good morning. Why there is no speeding cameras on San Vicente Boulevard? It has become like Indy 500 racetrack and no officers. So we don't have any speed cameras throughout the city. That's not something that we have implemented. There's been talks about it, but we just don't have that. But I do want to, if you remember, if you go back, either rewind or click on the link to get to the Blue Notebook, and you can actually look at the stat. But I know during, at least this week, August 10th to August 16th, they did 33 traffic stops on San Vicente, issued 28 citations, and 16 of those were for speeding. So we are out there. Just because you don't see us doesn't mean we're not out there. And then from Walter Van. Will the police department start accurately posting what crimes were happening in Santa Monica? Now investigations are going into law enforcement that is reducing felonies to misdemeanors. Ooh, Walter, this is... I don't know if you're referencing other departments. I can't speak on them. I can speak on us. And we don't reclassify crimes that are felonies to misdemeanors. There have been certain propositions that have passed, so it's become law. If you remember back in 2014 with Prop 47, it made certain theft, fraud, certain narcotic arrests that used to be felonies into misdemeanors. But then about 10 years later, with Prop 36, that reclassified some of the crimes. So now some of the theft crimes, especially with priors, or some of the fraud crimes with priors, are felonies. And some of the narcotic arrests with priors is now considered a felony versus what was once a misdemeanor for the last 10 years prior to that. And this just went in effect, I think, if I'm not mistaken, December of 2024. And I do remember seeing in a bunch of the entries in the Blue Notebook that they made arrests that were once misdemeanors and now felonies, especially for the narcotics section. So it's not us. It's not like San Monica PD reclassifying these crimes. That's just what they are. We have to abide by state law. So if state law says the possession of cocaine is a misdemeanor, then we have to arrest as a misdemeanor. If they say it's in a felony, then we can arrest for a felony. So that's how it is in Santa Monica. I can't speak on anybody else. But that concludes this week's Blue Notebook review. Again, feel free to write some comments, questions, easy ones, hard ones. I don't mind. I really do enjoy the conversation because it leads to knowledge, and I think it kind of diminishes the quote unquote secrecy behind what it is that we do. We're an open book. So until next week, stay classy, Santa Monica. I'm going to do a different movie quote at the end of every Blue Notebook review that has to do with like goodbye. I didn't. We're starting this week.